Hello. The book that you see here, Speech, Media and Ethics, is my second book on issues pertaining to liberty, tolerance, free speech, and media ethics. The first was The Boundaries of Liberty and Tolerance, published in 1994. And this one, Speech, Media and Ethics, the first edition came out in 2001, and the second edition came in 2005. The title, Speech, Media and Ethics, was proposed to me by my mentor and supervisor, my beloved Jeffrey Marshall. Jeffrey also wrote the foreword for this book. The first part of the book is dealing with issues that concern freedom of expression. The first chapter is called Harm Principle, Offence Principle, and Hate Speech, in which I explain that the grounds for limiting free speech may also include offense. And this is a follow-up to John Stuart Mill's scholarship. And I explained how damaging and how vicious hate speech can be by illustrating the Nazi attempt to march at Skokie that was populated by thousands of Holocaust survivors. With the aim, of course, to offend the Jews and to attract media attention. For the media, it is interesting to see Nazi groups strutting in the streets of a Jewish town with many, many Holocaust survivors. What's the impact on Holocaust survivors? The second chapter is about the right to demonstrate versus the right to privacy, picketing private homes of public officials. And the trigger for this chapter came about when there were often calls to picket outside not the Prime Minister office or the President office, but outside the private homes. So by this, you are interfering not only with the Prime Minister, but also with his family and often also neighbors, because the police close the entire street and so on. So the question that I was exploring here, whether there is a right to demonstrate in front of private residences. Of course, people have the right to, in democracy, to picket and to protest against public officials in their offices, but homes is a private place, so there is a dilemma here. I'm trying to unfold the dilemma, and I'm speaking about the pros and cons of this dilemma, and then provide my opinion. The third chapter is about the right to participate in elections, judicial and practical considerations. And my line of argument is this right to participate in the election is not an absolute. Democracies have the right to defend themselves. And when you have political parties that want to destroy democracy, that clearly say that we exist in order to replace democracy with something else, authoritarian regime, theocracy, dictatorship, and that party has no qualms, its leaders has no qualms to use violence in order to promote and advance their agenda. And my claim is that this party should be banned and should not participate in the election. Part 2 of the books is about media ethics and freedom and responsibilities. The issue of social responsibility is something that occupies my mind for many, many years. So there's a lot here on the issue of what responsibilities does the media have. I'm starting the exploration by looking at the issue of objectivity, arguing that it's a phantom rather than panacea. It's very difficult for the media to remain objective. And I explain why it is difficult and what are the limitations to objectivity, and how the media can still try to do its best when they are reporting. And I speak also about the boundaries. Of course, you can't be objective about everything. People in liberal democracy should have some ground values. So I would not suggest that in the name of objectivity, I'm going to give an equal platform to Holocaust denier and Holocaust survivor, or to a rape victim and her assailant, or politician that someone tried to assassinate him, and to the assassin. That would be unacceptable as far as morality is concerned. From that opening chapter of the second part, I move on to explore ethical boundaries of media coverage, and I'm suggesting some helpful distinction to outline these boundaries. And then the next chapter is about media coverage of suicide, where I compare and analyze how media in several democracies report on suicide. And my suggestion is that they should be careful, respectful of the people who took their lives, respectful of the families who lost their dear ones. It should not be sensationalist. It should not be yellowish. It should not treat people with contempt. Respect for the people should be paramount. And because of the copycat effect, and because there is research that shows that sometimes excessive coverage of suicide might lead to further suicide, especially if those who took their lives were some sort of a role model for young people. Therefore, their coverage of suicide should be, as I said, respectful and not excessive, bearing in mind that excessive coverage might lead to further cases of suicide. Then I'm looking at the work of the press councils in Great Britain, Canada, and Israel, and provide a comparative appraisal. I was a member of the Israeli Press Council. The Israeli Press Council is modeled after the British model, so I was interested to know and be familiar with the British model. And I'm also interested in how Canada ran its affairs, so I went to Canada and spoke with presidents of several press councils and learned about their activities and compare it to the activities in Israel and Great Britain. Canada as well is following the same British model. And finally, the appendix was written with one of my students, Itzhak Yonovitsky, and it's a perception of media coverage among the Israeli Jewish public, a reflection of existing social cleavages. So that's a report that we've done about public perception of the media in Israel. I wish you happy reading. I hope that you'll find interest. Thank you.